Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me for another vlog. Today I want to talk more specifically about Toastmaster. I spoke about it in my last vlog, but I want to talk more specifically today about how I've developed as a speaker in Toastmaster and how I've kind of worked around some of the challenges that have been there because of my disability. So, as I said in my last vlog, I was really nervous, as everyone would be, at writing my first speech. And part of that was that I didn't know if I'd be able to stand and speak for the length of time that I was given. It was only 4 to 6 minutes. But having not done that before, I didn't know if I'd be able to. So for my first 3 speeches, I did some back down on my chair at the front. And then I got to my 4th speech, and we thought that it would be good to try leaning against the bar stool in the dead, because it meant that I would be that much higher. I'm therefore able to see the audience much better. And if you're sat down in the audience, it's really hard to make eye contact with everyone. So, leaning against the bar door made it much easier to see everyone. And it worked. I still didn't move around at all, so it meant that I could still rest, but be higher than my audience. And then we got on to my 5th speech. I developed in Toastmaster, when you join you get a manual, and it has 10 speaking projects in it that each focus on developing a different skill. So the 5th speech is about body language, using the stage, facial expression, using gestures, all that kind of thing. And this was the first thing that really pushed me in Toastmaster, because obviously up until that point I'd not been moving around at all. I thought for this one, because Toastmaster is such a safe space to try anything out, the this one I thought, well, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to not use a chair, and I'm going to just see how it works. I remember rehearsing that speech, because I always rehearse my speech a lot before I give them. And I remember I rehearsed it down to where I would move at what point. Because for me, having to move on the stage and be speaking clearly and remember what I meant to say is quite a lot to think about. Obviously, thinking about moving my body it takes that much more thought than it does for somebody else to make sure I move in the way that I want to. So I literally practiced. I was going to move left at one point, and then come back to the centre, and then move right, and all that kind of thing. So it meant that I didn't move much. I moved when I made a new point. Ever since then, I've been playing around with moving around with the days. And what I found from the feedback that I get is that because I move with them at purpose, it worked really well. So although I don't use the whole stage, it doesn't matter, because people know that when I move, I'm making a new point. Awkward times of the deal in the middle of so many vlogs. Anyway, then moving on to the 6th speech. This was all about vocal variety. I should say that body language and vocal variety were 2 things that I never thought that I would look at. I never thought that I'd be able to utilize those techniques. But doing all these pictures really forced me to push my boundaries and to really do what I could do. And I found the vocal variety that it was absolutely fine. The vocal variety includes things like pitch, volume, the beating part, the slower, the tone of your voice, all that kind of thing. And what I found was that I really played around with it. So, although I can't repeat very fast, when I'm repeating, I can still speak faster than my normal speed and slower than my normal speed. So I found that it was all relative to how I normally speak. And the other technique that's really useful for me is the pause. Now, I tend to pause more than other people because I need to take a breath and swallow, like that. But it worked in my favour because pauses are always useful when you're speaking. It gives people time to think and digest what you said, which I guess think about now is even more important because people need to kind of sometimes figure out what I've said. The pauses I can really use to great effect, and also forcing myself to pause give me the break that I need. Another thing that I found is that people who have seen me develop over the last 2 years have come up to me and they said, "You're getting clearer every speech." And part of that is that people do tune into my speech, but I think it also because I've had to really work to become as clear as possible. And I actually did a speech in March this year. I entered the club competition and I won it unexpectedly, and so I went on to the next level of the competition, which was the area level. Preparing for the area level of the competition, I really took my speech apart, and one of the major things that I looked at was how can I be as clear as possible. So I recorded myself, and it was really interesting to hear myself back because to myself I sounded as clear as everybody else said to me. So it's useful to hear myself back to hear what I actually sound like. When I was making the score, I used to try and make me to speak louder. And I thought that a lot of the problem was my pronunciation. So they gave me these sheets of paper with loads of words on them for me to practice. I never did. But what I actually found out through doing this was that it wasn't about my pronunciation. That I couldn't really do a lot about. But what I did notice was that when I was unclear, was where I was learning words together. So, this is a bit of another story really, but one of the lines that I was saying was, "Do you know how old you are?" I heard it back, and the word "how old," I was saying, "how old?" So it made me slow down over those words, and it became, "Do you know how old you are?" And the little thing like that made my whole speech that much clearer. So, I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do let me know in the comments what you thought. If you'll never take what you do that in the comment below. If you like this video, give it a like, share it if you think anyone would be interested, and make sure you subscribe if you want to hear my next vlog, and I'll see you next time. Bye!